it's Marianne. Welcome to another episode of the Influential Nonprofit. Today, we're going to talk about why donors stay, why they leave, and why it's okay that they do both. And I know you're thinking, what? I want all my donors to stay all the time. And I get that. We talk a lot about getting the second gift and why we do or don't get the second gift. But we never really look at where that first gift comes from. Okay. And that person could not be a long-term prospect, and that's okay. Just like people, organizations have relationships that can be, you know how there's a phrase, it's a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Well, donors have the same relationships. And I liken it to like a tourist, right? A tourist who comes into town and just stays for a few days and has a great experience. A seasonal person, maybe that comes from a certain, like they come for the winter or a certain time, and but they don't stay forever. But then you have somebody like a long-term loyal person who may stay forever. If you've ever met, like my sister lives in Lafayette, Louisiana, and all these people I meet in Lafayette were like, yeah, I came here once in like 95 and never left. Like they were just like, I'm here long term. I am a long-term loyal person. Not everybody that goes to Louisiana is going to stay forever. That would not be possible. There would not be enough people. But people come to Louisiana, they come to Lafayette, they have a wonderful time. Or right, or they could be seasonal. They come for certain times of the year. They come, my sister was seasonal for a long time. She would come for a few months at a time and then wound up moving there permanently. These are the natural rhythms and orders of relationships, and they reflect also in our donor relationships too. I'm going to give you an example, and then we're going to talk about what that looks like and what we can do to understand our relationship and encourage it. And okay, I'm going to hold that thought. Let me start here. My friend Rachel is a lovely person, and she's also in fundraising. I've mentioned her before, and many years ago, when she had her first kid, she had a heart attack, and it was a huge crisis. And she got through this, and because of that experience, she got involved with the American Heart Association, specifically Go Red for Women. And she actually got super involved and became a spokesperson for the campaign for one of the years for Go Red for Women. As you know, heart attacks are a leading cause of death and very rarely recognized in women. Well, Rachel, who is a friend of mine, got very involved um, in the Go Red for Women movement. I, as a friend of hers, was also involved because she would invite me to events. She would invite me to, to wear red on certain days, to go to their different parties and things like, absolutely, I want to go because I want to support Rachel, right? In that scenario, I'm the tourist because this is not a cause that I would typically like. There's nothing wrong with the cause. Remember, we all get our own philanthropic heart. We all um, have our own sovereignty over what we care about. But I was caring about Rachel, so I sort of touristed through this a cause. But Rachel was a seasonal person, and the reason is, and this is just my experience. If you have a different experience, I would love to hear it. But a lot of people who go through something like Rachel, maybe a heart attack, cancer, something really catastrophic, typically we live our life in 7-year cycles. And so you're going to want to stay, people will naturally kind of cycle in and out of these experiences. So after about 6 or 7 years, she said, I just don't want to be the girl who had the heart attack anymore. And she moved away from that. So that was a seasonal thing for her. There was a reason there. But there are people that are long-term loyal donors and who are very invested in American Heart Association, and that is their cause. I'm going to use myself as an example, as I I volunteer for Stray Rescue of St. Louis. I don't know what it is, but stray animals are my thing. And I am a long-term loyal donor. And that is about me and what's inside me. Now, there are people that can come through and be like, oh my God, I adopted a dog and I gave a donation. And that's it. They touristed through. Some people, hey, they had this time in their life when they're really into that. And then, maybe they had kids or they moved away and they moved on. It's all natural and it's all part of it. And I would really love if we could reframe our thinking to not be disappointed when people only give once because they are doing their job, right? And when somebody, I just went to Cancun in last month with my friend. Like nobody expected me to stay in Cancun. And they would love for me to come back, but I had a great experience. Whether I came back or not, I went, I spent my money, I did my job as a tourist. I have friends who went to Mexico so much they were seasonal, they're actually going to retire there. They built a house and are going to retire there. Some people do become seasonal, but you look at the numbers, if you look at the numbers, right, a lot of people are going to tourist through. Some will stay seasonally, some will stay forever. And whatever they do is totally okay. So I want to unpack the idea today of donor tourism, why people just give once, why others stay for the long haul, and why both are absolutely essential. So let's talk about the why people become donor tourists. There are many types of donor tourists, and and that's okay. Maybe like me, a friend invited them to a fundraising event. Okay. Maybe they gave to a disaster relief after seeing a movie, a moving story after an appeal. Or maybe they just couldn't resist an adorable puppy or a GoFundMe and it was an impulse buy. All of these are legit and they can come into people. Like we have trivia nights here in St. Louis, and then there'll be, 300 people at a trivia night. And if you're a development director saying, oh, wow, there's 300 people who support my cause. Yes, 300 people supported your cause that night. I may have gone to the trivia night because my brother invited me and we love to do trivia nights. I'm not really interested in your cause. And I will come and I will spend my money, buy an auction item, do the raffle, do all the things you asked me because I'm in support of my brothers, in support of the cause, but it's just not going to be for me after that. But I can still do my job. Okay. So if, usually it's an invitation to a friend. There's an organization has its moment, like right now with the SNAP benefits the food pantries or hunger relief organizations are having a moment. There could be a lot of people who are going to tourist through those organizations and then and to help in a critical time and then it may not stay forever. But that's okay. They did their job. Um, okay. We have generous, good-hearted people responding to what moves them in the moment. And they're not wrong for leaving because they just weren't looking to move in permanently. We can, we can date, right? A reason, a season, a lifetime. We can date. We don't have to become best friends for life. Ideally, we would love that, everyone to do that, but we know that's not reasonable. And also, it really starts to diminish the value of a one-time gift. Um, I want to add to an example of like an in memoriam. If you do a lot of tributes and memorials, somebody may pass away or somebody may, have a birthday or an anniversary or something where people would give in memoriam or tribute gifts. Those could be one-time gifts, but people showed up and they supported their loved one. They did their job. They may stay for a while longer because let's say, if like my mom, um, had a cause that she loved and she passed away and I'm going to stay involved in that cause, then I may just move on because it doesn't serve that much of a role in my life anymore. And there's no fault to anyone when these things happen. And that's what I really want people to understand. So we have tourists, right? They give for a moment, a cause that tugs at their heart, but they may not stay but they can bring new energy, visibility, and even introduce new people to your work. So I might tourist through and I could have promoted the heck out of Go Red for Women, and that may have touched somebody that I don't even know who that was. So they can bring a lot of new energy and visibility. Seasonal residents give when it fits their life. Maybe they're parents of a kid in a school, right? Well, when your kid's out of that school, you're gonna maybe move on from that school. Maybe you're not. I have a friend whose kid's been out of school for many years and she still loves volunteering at that school and she loves being a part of that community. It's not a given, but also when people move on, it's okay. They might leave and return. It's just a natural rhythm. But then the townies, these are the long-term donors who are truly aligned with your mission and values. The organization, what you do is part of who they are, just like me and Stray Rescue of St. Louis. It is part of who I am. I've been fostering dogs for 25 years. I love doing it. It's my favorite thing. I'm not going anywhere. Even when there's crises, even when like things happen I don't maybe agree with, I know they're doing good work and I'm gonna keep supporting them. Okay, so let's talk about why it's okay when donors leave. Donor turnover is a normal thing. And this is why I feel like we get down on ourselves like, well, we had this many and only this many gave a second gift. We don't look at who was giving the gift in the first place. Were they even really going to give a second gift? We automatically assume because you give once, you're supposed to give again, and it's our fault if you don't. I didn't solicit right. I didn't capture them quickly enough, all those things. When maybe their only intention was to give once. And I'm not saying you can't, that there's nothing you can do. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is some people will come with you and some people won't. And that's okay. They were never meant to come with you. And where we get bogged down and what makes marketing and fundraising hard is the assumption that every first gift should lead to a second gift. And if they don't, there's something wrong with our messaging, our fundraising, something like that. And it's not because we're really not giving any sovereignty or choice to the people who gave that first gift. Like many of times, and I know you've experienced this, you're going to give once for whatever reason, right? The memoriam, the impulse buy, the friend asked you, and you're good and you're done. And that relationship felt complete. And I want it to feel complete on the organization side too, because you're missing out on the gratitude for those first gifts because they don't lead to second gifts. Don't get mad when tourists, people don't get mad when a tourist leaves their town, right? My sister in Lafayette, when tourists leave, no one gets mad that they left. You hope they had a good time, tell their friends, and maybe come back someday. And that is like a first gift. You hope they felt fulfilled, they felt your thanks, and that maybe they would consider doing it again. Our job is to give them meaningful experience while they're with us and release them with gratitude when they're ready to go. And that's it. So thinking about, right, a reason, season, or lifetime, right, the tourist, the seasonal, or the townie, that they all have roles to play and their roles are all valid. Okay, let's look at identifying and nurturing your townies. So here's practical ways to spot and deepen relationships over time. How do you know they're a townie? How do you know they're there for long term? Number one, absolutely number one is values alignment. Do they talk about why instead of what? That is a sign of belonging. When I talk about why I care about, stray dogs, that is deeply effective to me. And it is rooted in my lived experiences. Remember, we all have our own philanthropic heart, and why I give to a cause and why you give to a cause has little to do with the marketing and more to do with what's in my lived experience and the alignment I feel to the work you do. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this as well. It is about the mission and it's also about the personality of the organization. So for instance, I'm a bit of a rebel. I'm the wild child, been my whole life. It's part of my identity. It's, in if you have ever done sub personality work, I definitely have a rebel. And I love her. And I know you love her because it's why I speak the truth and I do what I do. But my rebel likes the upstart. I like the misfit. I like the upstart. I like the scrappy ones. I like the organizations who are disruptors because that's me. So I tend to gravitate toward that. That's an alignment. That's what I'm looking for. And that is a long-term loyal. Okay. Number two, notice engagement beyond giving. They're opening your emails, they're commenting on your socials, they're showing up at your events. This is what I want to talk about. I'm going to riff for a second. Here we go. We often measure somebody's commitment by a dollar sign, and we are really doing a disservice to how we understand and measure relationships. And I'm going to do a whole podcast on goal setting and reframing how we work with goals. But I'll just say this for now. We are doing ourselves a disservice by only looking at how much. There could be people who are long-term loyal donors. They don't give a lot. Maybe they don't give often, but they show up. They tout, they sing your praises, they share your posts, they participate in conversations, they show up at events, they love you. And we only put the people who, like somebody could sneeze $10,000. It doesn't mean that much to them, but they're getting a plaque on the wall. But the person who comes to your every event, who is showing up for you, who's participating in things, who just loves the crap out of what you do and is so happy to be a part of this community, I want to put their name on the wall. I want to put their name on the wall. They deserve the recognition because they are truly long-term and loyal. Okay, I'm going to stop on that riff. More on that another day. Number three, create experiences of belonging. Townies want to feel like part of the fabric. They want to feel connected. Invite them into storytelling, advisory roles, behind the scenes moments. Remember awareness, interest, connection, action. Give them opportunities to connect and stay connected because they are your long-term loyal. They are your favorites. They are your specials. And you can treat them that way. And I'm not saying don't dismiss anybody else. I'm saying treat them. They are your long-term loyal people. Invite them into the inner sanctum. Let them be a part of it because that's what they're feeling. And last is release. You can just release everyone else gracefully. You don't pressure a tourist to buy a house. You appreciate their visit and keep the door open. Friends of ours, different friends of ours, moved about 7 or 8 years ago to Amsterdam. They literally sold everything and moved to Amsterdam. They just didn't get up one day and decide to move to Amsterdam. They went, we actually have friends who were living here who were Dutch, and then we became friends with them, and then we became friends with their friends, and then there was a time when we were all sort of going back and forth and touristing through each other's cities and forming these lifelong relationships. And during one of those trips to Amsterdam, my friend said, "You know what? We'd like to live here." And it took them maybe, I want to say 5 or 6 years, maybe even more, to actually sort out how to do that. But they were seasonal, right? They would go when they could for as long as they could. But then and now they became long-term loyal, right? They are now townies of Amsterdam. But so no one wakes up and says, I can't wait to be a long-term loyal donor of a nonprofit. No one goes like, I'm gonna go to Cancun and then just moves there. Maybe it can happen, right? But it's typically not how things go. You go there like that was great, and then you go back and you go back and you find yourself going back so much, you're like, wait, maybe I should consider like making a move. So we don't pressure people. We just say thank you with gratitude and hope that they will return and keep them in the loop, keep them in the interest phase so that they will come back, right? So they remember you and they say, "Oh my God, that was so great." There's a resort that we go to in Jamaica that we've been to 4 or 5 times. But one of the reasons that we go there is because we feel so connected to the community and feel so connected to the people there that it feels like a second home to us. That is by design. And also if I just came once and had a great experience, I came once and had a great experience. That's okay too. And so stop feeling pressure, your pressure or pressuring them to come back or to give a second gift when the first gift was totally appreciated and you just hope they'll be open to giving again. Okay. Every donor plays a role in your ecosystem. Tourists bring energy and visibility, townies bring depth and sustainability, and there's space in between them where just the relationships involved. Instead of asking, how do we keep everyone? We're going to ask, how do we make every visit meaningful? And this is what I want you to say is like, instead of how do we keep everyone? How do we keep them giving? How do we make every experience they have a meaningful one? I want to go a little bit deeper into this continuum of giving and what can we look for in the donor continuum so that how can we understand how we make every visit meaningful, whether you're here for a reason, season, or lifetime. So for a tourist, our motivation would be an emotion, a social connection, some sort of immediacy or urgency, right? I have an emotional pull, there's some sort of connection, some immediacy or urgency. So for instance, like a hunger relief, food pantry, something like that. Now, hey, ice bucket challenge. I'm gonna hold that. Let me dive into that when I'm done with this. Okay. So their behavior is a one-time gift, and your opportunity is to welcome them warmly, make it easy for them to give, and don't over pursue them, which I know you wouldn't do, but just keep giving them value, value, value. The second is the seasonal residents. They have alignment for a time, a life stage, a campaign, some sort of interest in their life that's being reflected in what you do. Um, like I work with somebody who maintains trails, and like they're like really into their hiking phase. This is what they're into. And they go through it for a while, and then maybe they move on to another activity. Not like they didn't like the trails, they just like didn't like something else. It served a purpose for um a period of time. And their behavior is periodic engagement. But and then so you can learn to re-engage during relevant seasons or themes. So for instance, maybe they're seasonal, you're doing like they show up once a year for a certain thing. Or again, like maybe there's like your organization when there is in a crisis, you know that these are people who will show up, but they're showing up during relevant seasons or during specific themes of giving. And they may arc out, and that's okay. Remember, everything is a cycle. And it's all right. It's all right that Rachel said, I just don't want to be known as the girl who had a heart attack. She had processed that experience and wanted to reshape her identity away from that. Now, she's still connected to it. She's still involved in it, not to the level that she was. And that's okay. There's a natural rhythm to those things. And you're allowed to release people. And I know it's disappointing when somebody like that, who's such a good supporter, would say, "Hey, that I'm kind of moving on." You're like, "Oh no, please stay." But just allow for it. Remember, we love people for who they are, not what they can do for us. Just allowing that, yeah, that could be part of their identity. I think this is pretty common. I mentioned this earlier, that I think this is pretty common, especially in people who go through a crisis, like maybe, you have a kid in the NICU, you have a disease or an illness, and you're like, I don't want anybody to go through this. And you really take up, that mantle, and you're out there, leading that charge. And then after about 6 or 7 years, you sort of process through that and you think, okay, I'm really ready to rearrange my identity around something else. And that's okay. Bless and release. Remember, they go with gratitude. Okay, the last one is a townie. It's deep meaning, mission alignment, and deep, deep trust and belonging. Their behavior is consistent giving. They're just giving to you. And that not just within money, but they're giving to you time, energy, all of the ways that they give. And we're going to cultivate connection and shared purpose and involvement. We're going to bring them into our inner world. We're going to bring them into, I don't want to say like VIP, because I don't think that may not be the way to put it, but I feel like you understand what I'm saying, which is we want to make them feel deeply connected to what we're doing and understand that there is a values alignment here. And also, the last thing we don't want to do is just take for granted that they'll always be around, because even a long-term loyal donor can feel like they're not feeling as connected. That was the big lesson of 2007, 2008, when the housing collapsed. All these nonprofits cut their marketing and development staff, and donors were like, what? And they said, well, we don't want to ask people to give. No one has the money right now. Like the economy was in a collapse. But donors were like, well, just because I don't have money doesn't mean I don't want to hear from you. And nonprofits said, wait, what? You don't, yes. Like we really had to, I think that was such a great lesson, and understanding that long-term loyal donors want to be with you, whether they can give or not. Maybe this was, like somebody is a typical giver, this is a rough year for them. You're not going to cut them off, you know, and or maybe like you cut them off and like, wait, I thought I was important. Well, maybe not. And they may break up with you after a long period of time. But for the most part, long-term loyal donors are there for you. And they're also very forgiving and understanding, because there is a high level of trust, because they understand your cause, and they understand the work that you're doing, and they can give you a little bit of space. Okay, let's wrap this up. why it's okay when they leave. And I'm hoping this gives you like a, oh, thank God. Yes, okay, okay, yeah, because I didn't know why I had, 400 people at this event and I, and only 100 of them gave again. Um, we don't grieve when tourists leave our town. We hope they had a good experience, tell their friends, and maybe even come back. But that's how fundraisers, you should think about one-time donors. Okay, I want to share a couple of examples of what this looks like. Foster Adoptive Care Coalition has an event. It's called Hope in a Handbag. They do it every other year, and it's a wonderful event. I've mentioned this before, so if you've heard it, I apologize, but there's about 2,000 purses, handbags, and accessories in this room, in this ballroom. About, I don't know, maybe 400 people, mostly women, and you can bid on handbags that are gently used designer bags. And there's, I would say that, and the Foster Adoptive Care Coalition has explained this to me. They could take this event and will it to another organization and probably have very little drop in long-term loyal donors. Most of the people that come there are coming there for the handbags, but they happen to love that their handbags are going to a charity. Now, it makes it a little more special. They can feel but good, like, hey, it's for the kids, right? Like I'm walking out with arms of handbags like, hey, it's for the kids, right? So they're doing it, but I think it could be any charity could go behind them and take up that organization, and those ladies would still come to that event because they're happy to support a cause. But are they doing their job? Yes. They're coming, they're participating, they're spending their money, they're buying handbags, they're doing all the things that we asked them to do. So instead of being disappointed that they didn't stay longer, right? Understand that this event is really about the tourist. This is a tourist event. It's just what it is, and that's okay. And we can have that event. Um, and we can have that event and know that maybe only 5 to 10% of those people will actually be seasonal or long-term donors, but the event is still worth it to us, right? And you understand that it's worth because of the money that is raised, because the energy and the visibility that it creates. And it's great. Okay, but we understand that this is a tourist event. But they have another event, and I'm not sure they still do this event, but they did in the past. That was definitely for the long-term loyal donor, a very different event. It was a fundraiser, and it was for those very special people who really, really loved this cause, who really love Foster Adoptive Care Coalition. It was a really fun event, and it was it was really very centered on long-term donors. And so we understood the purpose of each event. And so we weren't disappointed, right? If something happened, because this event, the second event, the gala, was really for like those long-term loyal donors. That was sort of, they weren't inviting new people into this. There wasn't a big promotional push. This was all pulling from the people who are already in awareness, interest, connected, connection, action, who are already connected. It was moving them to action. That's all it was. So we can, when we reframe these relationships and honor what they are instead of what we wish they could be, we can actually love people for who they are. And I did mention Ice Bucket Challenge. That was at 2010, 2011. That was a whole lot of tourists coming through this organization, and it made this bubble. But is it sustainable? Probably not. Everybody be like, oh, what's our, like, that was when going viral was new, and everybody like, oh, can we go viral? And it's like, well, is that really what you want? Because it just pushes a lot of people into your organization who probably aren't going to stay. They're doing it for the challenge. They're doing it because it's a trend, and the trend will go. But you know what? That was great because a lot of people know what Alzheimer's is now. They didn't know it was before. And in the long run, it can benefit you, but it's not like everybody who does that when that spike is actually it's going to rise and then drop, and that's okay. That's totally all right. Again, we have sovereignty of people. So here's here's my wrap up thoughts. First is watch for values alignment in donor conversations. And feedback. Really listen when people are explaining their why and what your organization means to them. This is so important. When somebody hits reply on that email and they're sharing a story with you, they're telling you that this is meaningful to them, that it's touching their heart. Second, notice when somebody engages beyond giving, opening emails, attending events, volunteering, and build experiences that deepen belonging. Remember, relationship first, money will follow. That build belonging, not just giving. And third, release the rest with gratitude and focus your energy where relationship is mutual. Don't worry so much that you didn't get that second or third gift. Those people were probably never going to give it anyway. It's okay. Focus on where the energy and alignment is mutual. Every donor has a role to play. Some bring a spark, some bring staying power. Both are essential to your community. I hope this helps you understand the nature of relationships and that it's okay to give a gift one time and see those people with love and gratitude, not disappointment that they didn't give again. All right, that is it for this episode of the Influential Nonprofit. Now, I mentioned my donor pipeline: awareness, interest, connection, action. This is the 4 stages. And if you want long-term loyal donors and to understand your relationships, you have to have a pipeline that welcomes them in and that holds space for, right, that can easily accommodate the tourist and the seasonal and also capture those long-term loyal donors. And I'm doing a special thing for right now. It's a 4 session coaching package. It's 4 90-minute sessions. Each session, we're going to look at how to generate awareness, how to generate interest, how to generate connection, and how to move people to action so that your pipeline is strong and effective. You can do what works, release the rest, and really have a system that's going to attract new people to you. So you're never wondering where the money is coming from, are never hungry for leads again, because they're just naturally coming to you in a way that's very easy and aligned and full of mutually beneficial alignment. There's a link in the show notes if you want to book a call with me. I'm happy to connect with you around this, or just to connect with you, just help you, support you in your fundraising in any way. And that's it. We'll see you next time on the Influential Nonprofit.